Look at this jackass. Hold on. Sorry, we have to check in on our good friend Greg Kelly, who's shitting his pants right now.
Not surprised. I'm not surprised. You're not surprised. We talked about this all during the campaign. He lacks the integrity. He lacks competence. He's not supposed to be president.
He is, and he's why we're getting out.
We can all see that, and it's kind of sad. I can accept that because, quite frankly, I'm used to it. I
live it. It's your job to pretend that this is real.
Knew it about this guy. And actually, in a weird way, I can accept that Afghanistan is now in the hands of these guys. I don't like it at all. It didn't happen.
Yeah, it just didn't. It rubbed me the wrong way. Kind of like when everything was great with China until the COVID thing rolled in. Then it just my heart wasn't.
To happen this quickly. But it's Afghanistan. It's far away, and as long as they don't dare mess with us here, I can live with it.
Yeah, if they're just beheading women and that kind of stuff, fuck it, man. It's far away.
We have to. But something I can't tolerate.
Uh-oh.
Another loss for our American military.
Loss?
Now, we have the best military in the world.
Loss? If staying in longer is a sign that you're winning when you ultimately leave, then why didn't Biden add 3 months to our win?
But it's led by incompetent generals and civilian staff.
Yeah, that guy was one of the flight attendants.
This is not the responsibility of the men and women, the troops. It's those who lead them. And this is a long time coming. The Pentagon, my goodness gracious, it's time for a top-to-bottom overhaul.
Right. So basically, he's calling on his buddy Vladimir Putin to just basically dust the building.
Start from scratch. The culture has been corrupted, possibly because the Pentagon is so close to the swamp. It's in the swamp, right there, so close to.
It's always been there.
Those guys.
They didn't seem to mind when we were. Is the proximity of the Pentagon to, quote-unquote, the swamp the reason we had the Iran-Contra affair? Oh, you weren't upset about that? I see.
Those bureaucrats in Washington, D.C., they have screwed up the military.
They've screwed up the military. Yeah, they won't even let them stay in a forever war in a country we don't even want to be in. I mean, what kind of military is that?
Now, we showed you yesterday how all the happy talk and misinformation about Afghanistan helped put us in this fix.
I think that the
2008
development of the Afghan army is on a very good path right now.
We've made tremendous strides, incredible progress in the last 20 months.
The solid partnership has been the thing that has been really striking for me all around the country.
It's fair to ask if we're winning in Afghanistan. I believe the answer is yes, and several facts allow me to say that with confidence.
And we've seen some great progress in some of the operations based, even at the tactical level, on the intelligence structure.
Let's see if they show, and if he shows any of the ones during Trump. I'd be curious.
They showed me.
Nope, went right back to 2008.
The positive changes they have helped bring about, the villages they can now enter, the Afghan police and forces they are training and trying to improve.
All this sugar.
You didn't show any during the Trump years? That's weird. Greg, why would you do that? You prick.
Sugarcoating, all this bureaucratic talk, all this spin. We got to stop it.
Yeah, and yet, all during the Trump years, you knew this was the case, and Trump knew this was the case, and he didn't do it. Why didn't he fucking do it? Why didn't he get out? He had a great plan. They could have snuck out. We would have. I mean, were we even really there? I think we could have, if we could have left and no one would have known, were we ever there in the first place?
Something has to be done.
Yeah, something was done. Biden decided we're getting the fuck out.
Culturally, inside the Pentagon, because they did the same thing in Iraq. Another war, we blew it at the very end, but it was a long time coming. We were saying the same misleading stuff about.
And so, explain to me how this is Biden's fuck up then? I mean, Greg, you're venturing dangerously close to calling Donald Trump a loser.
Iraq. The generals were. Take a look at this, all the way back in 2003.
Yeah, 2003.
The situation in Fallujah over the last 2 or 3 weeks, as we all know, has been a very cooperative and peaceful situation down there, where the mayor and the police chief, in fact, have been very supportive of the efforts that we have been embarked on. It is clearly a right in a democracy for those policemen to demonstrate as they have, and to state their views.
The police and military in Fallujah were protesting American forces, and he says somehow that's a good thing. Fallujah, I was there, was a powder keg, and yes, it did explode. Remember those contractors that they hung from that bridge? So much silly happy talk, so much misinformation.
And Biden finally comes in and says, this has all been bullshit, let's get the fuck out. And how are you not on his side right now?
From the generals.
While it's been a difficult few days.
2006. This nut. Oh my God. What do you think guys? What do you think the chances are that this asshole shows any briefing about it from the Trump years? Because it would make it obvious that Biden's the first guy not to buy it.
I can tell you that Iraqis have again risen to the occasion. Let me give you a couple of data points here. First of all, the Iraqi security forces performed well across the country, generally well.
Generally well. That's known. That's giving him a lot of wiggle room. Okay, generally well. This is prime bureaucratic speak. Next. Oh, remember this guy?
We're also focused on developing a capable and professional Iraqi security force and helping to build civil capacity. And we're making progress in each of these areas every day.
It's funny that when that guy was in a lower position as a lieutenant general, now that he's actually in charge, that's when we're getting out.
And while these efforts are progressing at a different pace, they're all moving forward in a positive and tangible manner.
He was so bad they promoted him twice to 4-star general and now Secretary of Defense.
Yep. By the way, don't forget that every time they float this, this is Greg Kelly and everybody assuming that Austin is an affirmative action hire. That this is the wokeness is how we ended up with a black secretary.
How about this guy?
The Iraqi security
2010 again.
forces demonstrated on Sunday that they're up to the task. If it were a test, they passed with flying colors, and I'm pretty confident that they can continue to secure the government of Iraq.
We're not going to see anything from 2017 to 2020 now,
and the Iraqi people. There's no doubt in my mind that they can do that exceptionally well.
Pretty confident, pretty confident. They all remind me of Baghdad Bob. Remember him, the Minister of Information during the invasion? Oh, we're winning, Saddam Hussein, right? He got it all wrong. They remind me so much of Baghdad Bob because the first real test for the Iraqi military in July of 2014, 30,000 Iraqi troops gave up pretty much right away to less than 1,000 ISIS fighters. ISIS rolling right over the Iraqi military in Mosul. They just walked.
You're just not going to show anything from the Trump years. That's fascinating.
Right. See, here's what the military would never say about our allies in Iraq and Afghanistan. As Fred Kaplan once reported, these militaries need American backing, a network of close air support, intelligence, logistics, repair, maintenance crews, rapid mobility by helicopter. You need that.
After 20 years?
That stuff for a real military, and they just don't have it. And that's why this all happened.
Oh, yeah? That's why this all happened? So Trump in 4 years couldn't train up some fucking aircraft mechanics?
I'm not blaming the troops, by the way. The troops, I'm talking about the privates to the sergeants to the lieutenants, captains, majors, even the lieutenant colonels and colonels. I'm talking about the generals. Yeah, the generals at that high level. they failed. Most of them. There's some thoughtful ones in the mix, some who will actually risk their career for their country. You know, lots of soldiers and Marines, sailors will risk their lives, almost all of them, but they won't risk their careers. It's kind of an interesting conundrum, if you will.
No, that's not a conundrum. If I won't. If you're asking me if I will, I won't.
And this goes all the way back to Vietnam, where bad news from the battlefield was often...
Again, how is this not a pro-Biden video?
...manipulated, crafted to look like good news by the time it got to the Pentagon. It's very rare for a general to go against the grain. Very rare. One who did, who I like a lot...
John Kelly. Yeah.
His name was General Edward Meyer. Shy Meyer was his nickname. He was the chief of staff of the Army from 1979 to 1983. And one year in 1980, he
Sorry, John Kerry. Did I say Kelly? I meant Kerry.
Shocked all of Washington, D.C. when he came right out and said, the Army that I'm in charge of is a hollow one. I mean, this was straight talk, and some of them weren't able to handle it. At one point, he threatened to turn in his 4 stars if he did not get what he needed to equip his army well.
In 1980.
He was something else. What do we have now?
And I personally find it offensive.
Oh, this is because he's worried about the internal white supremacists who are trying to, get themselves ready for battle using the military.
That we are accusing the United States military, our general officers, our commissioned, non-commissioned officers, of being, quote, woke or something else because we're studying some theories that are out there. That was started at Harvard Law School years ago, and it proposed that there were laws in the United States, antebellum laws prior to the Civil War, that led to a power differential with African Americans that were 3/4 of a human being when this country was formed. And then we had a Civil War and Emancipation Proclamation to change it. And we brought it up to the Civil Rights Act in 1964. It took another 100 years to change that. So look, I do want to know.
The military is supposed to avoid domestic politics. He's auditioning to be a guest.
He was answering Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz proposed that to him.
On Rachel Maddow's show. He did not have to say any of that stuff. And that, by the way, is in June.
He wouldn't come on your show, Greg.
Happening in June? The withdrawal from Afghanistan. He should have been planning the non-combatant evacuation operation that we're seeing right now.
That's not what he was supposed to do. That's not his job.
Such a colossal failure. You know who saw through this guy and the others? Trump. Trump.
Oh, yeah, he kept him.
He saw right through their act.
And yet never left.
In fact, when he showed up on the USS Gerald Ford, very interesting what he saw. And I'm going to have him tell you the story in a moment. But first, steam catapults in the Navy.
Oh, Jesus Christ. The Gerald Ford, because they're trying to use maglevs to speed up the number of planes that could get off the deck.
Aircraft carriers. For decades, they launched via steam. A catapult would throw the aircraft down the deck, and it took steam to actually move the airplane off the ship. Well, somebody had the bright idea to change that to electromagnetic technology. Electromagnetic, okay, give it a shot. Thing is, it's not working too well at all. And Trump was very familiar with this, and he wanted to get to the bottom of it. And guess what? The brass, they don't like that.
We built an aircraft carrier, and the aircraft carrier has all sorts of problems. It's the Gerald Ford. They throw the plane off.
That's how it works. They throw it off.
And they decide to do it through electric instead of steam, right? Catapult, it's called. So they have a catapult. And for 60 years, it's been steam operated. They decide to do it. Let's make it out of electric. I went to visit the...
Yeah, let's make it out of electric.
Yeah. And I wasn't interested in seeing the Admiral. The Admiral said, "Sir, Admiral so-and-so, the thing's out to sea trials, it's not working." And I said, "Admiral, honestly, I think you're a wonderful man. Very good-looking guy, actually. You're like central casting, but I want to see the catapulters." So I meet these 5 guys, real great guys. They're catapulters. "How long have you been doing it, Jim?" "Sir, 21 years. I said, "Let me ask you have a problem with it?" "Absolutely, sir. It doesn't work." "Why?" He said, "Because you If it breaks, you have to go through graduate school at MIT to fix it. And with the steam, we had the same power or more, and we could fix it with a blowtorch and a hammer.
I love that story. He's absolutely right. You know who hates that story? Hates that story? These guys, the generals.
Well, I would guess the tech guys probably who are designing it.
Oh, I feel bad.
Again, why the fuck what does this have to do with their decisions about keeping us in Afghanistan and Trump's decision to keep us in Afghanistan? If he could cut through the bullshit and talk directly to people, why didn't he ever talk to the soldiers on the ground who were telling the people above them that there was no way the army was going to stand on its own, and the people at the embassy who were saying the government in Afghanistan is going to fall in days after we leave? Because it was getting watered down as it went up the chain because people get averse to bad news through power structures. And Trump just jumps right past the admiral straight to the catapulters. He never went to Afghanistan and talked to anybody.
For that sailor who told the commander-in-chief the truth. Sometimes that's the last thing these guys want known. I'll be right back.
Again, all right, I stand by it. So, several times over the course of this video, this asshole showed people and quotes and never showed a single quote during the time that Trump was in office, because he would have to admit that Trump never did shit. I don't know how. There's no way he doesn't notice that. There's no way he's not aware that, like, they had a meeting about this. Him and his staff picked up stuff, Pentagon clips, and believe me, a lot of them were fresher than these from last year, the year before that. Oh, we're doing great. We'll be able to get out of there very soon. They're standing on their own. The government's looking terrific. And Trump never did. And his way of showing that is, oh, look back in retrospect, these guys were just bullshitting everybody. It was such bullshit. We knew it was bullshit. Look at this guy. He's so full of shit. These guys were bullshit. And Trump could spot bullshit from a mile away, like talking directly to the catapulters. And this is such bullshit. But I'm never going to show you the fact that Trump was actually president for 4 fucking years. It wasn't a campaign. He had access to all this information. He'd seen all these videos himself. He was literally briefed on every circumstance within this goddamn country, and still 4 years never got out. Why? And why does this asshole think that he can lay this off on Biden, who's finally called the generals on their bullshit? Because let's understand who the hero of this clip is. Joseph Biden. Joe Biden is finally the one who confronted the fact that this was an overly rosy picture. There was nobody who believed this was going to last. They thought it might last a little bit longer, but not by much. And so he made the decision to get out and stick to it. And this coward and his sycophantic love of Donald Trump tries to bury the fact that Trump was in the presidency for 4 fucking years and never did it. Never got out. Never even tried. Set the date to leave, even though none of the terms had changed. None of the circumstances had changed for his next term. And I call bullshit on the very idea that Trump was ever going to leave. That May 1st would have become, would have become August 31st, would have become, winter's really better. Well, in the spring, we'll be able conditions on the ground, we still need a certain amount of, it's okay if we have a constant fighting force there, as long as and then we'll leave everybody out. Everybody's going to, the Trump plan, everybody out, except we'll keep Bagram Air Force Base, and I guess it'll be run with ghosts and goats. Jesus Christ. This is idiotic, and nothing is more telling about this whole stupid thing than the fact that Greg Kelly willingly refuses to use any clips about Afghanistan from Trump's years in office. I was giving him the benefit of the doubt that maybe there was one last one, or he was going to play, even Trump calling, saying he wants to get out, but the generals tell him blah, blah, blah. Because whatever, he followed through with it anyways. Even though they said, he said he was calling them on their bluff, he still stayed in. And he still negotiated the exit for when he wouldn't be in office, or he wouldn't have to get reelected. It was a legacy thing for him if he decides to do it at all. And then about May, if he'd have gotten in office May 1st of this year, we'd be hearing all kinds of shit about keeping the oil even though there is none, or we need the lithium for batteries for electric cars he doesn't even want to fucking make. Get out of here. And Greg Kelly's going to go through and show clips from Bush and from Obama and from especially the first 8 years of this thing, not show any of the stuff from Trump, and then blame Biden for getting us out when he opens the whole segment saying, we don't need to be there, this is not our fight, this is far away, whatever they're going to do, fuck it. There is no moral compass at Newsmax, and Greg Kelly is fucking disgusting. He's a fool. And he thinks no one will notice. That's the embarrassing thing. Like, if I was a maggot Newsmax viewer, and I wasn't, dizzy from diarrhea caused by ivermectin horse paste, I would see this segment and go, Greg Kelly has zero respect for my intellect. He just thinks I'm a fucking dumbass. This is just gross.